Thank you for joining me here on Empowered Wellness with Sheetal. Today's practice is inspired by a book that I picked up last fall, and it's a book called Undulation, Relieve Stiffness and Feel Young by Anita Boser. Now, this book partly spoke to me because I'm on the other side of the half century mark, and I'm certainly feeling a little more stiffness in my body nowadays. But the other reason it resonated with me is because it aligns very much with my Chitta Yoga style of teaching and practicing. And for those of you that may be new to my channel and my work, I use the acronym CHITTA, CHITTA, to describe my approach because it is conscious, healing, intentional, therapeutic, transforming, and accessible. Those are the intentions that I like to hold whenever I practice as well as teach yoga. Additionally, chitta is an actual Sanskrit word that translates to the mind. And I deeply believe that yoga is essentially about the mind. We may work with our bodies when we practice yoga, but harnessing the power of the mind and quieting the mind is truly the essence of yoga practice. So when I started reading the book, I realized that undulation is something I was already doing in my practice in the form of slow, conscious, rhythmic movement. So in today's practice, we're going to blend undulation along with some yoga and, of course, conscious breathing in order to relieve stiffness from the joints and bring a little more ease to the body. So before we end, there are a few things I'd like to have you keep in mind. The first is to, of course, always honor your body. If there are any movement limitations or injuries that you may be experiencing right now, then please be sure to be mindful of the movements that you do. And you don't necessarily have to do everything that I'm demonstrating. I'll be showing you a variety of options in your movements. So please be mindful to move to the extent that feels good to you today. Along those same lines, we will start off with small, specific movements and then gradually evolve them into bigger, more free-form style movements. So once again, feel where you would like to practice, and you could practice anywhere within that range. And then finally, some of the things that we'll be doing require some balancing. So you may want to set yourself up near a wall or perhaps have a sturdy chair or something steady nearby that you could maybe hold on to if necessary. And that's about it. So if you're ready, let's get to it. So we're going to begin standing. So find that nice mountain pose in your standing posture. Again, be sure to perhaps have something sturdy nearby if you think you might need something for balance, or maybe again, set yourself up near a wall, something that you could put your hand against if necessary. And we'll start off, work our way from our feet upward as far as accessing the key joints of the body. So let's start off and first just take a moment to kind of arrive here in this space, in this moment, and maybe even close your eyes or find a focus point in front of you if that doesn't feel comfortable to close your eyes. And just take a few big breaths in and out. We're going to be working with breath a lot, and I'm going to guide you to take some nice big full breaths as we do our movements, and even suggest that you blow out or sigh out the exhales. Beautiful. So if you had your eyes closed, go ahead and open them. And let's shift our weight over to the left foot. Lift that right heel off the floor and just begin to gently toggle the right foot from one side to the other on the ball of the foot. So again, we're starting with our slow rhythmic undulating movement. Undulation, if you look it up, basically it's defined as smooth, rhythmic, slow movement. So we're going to do that just to open up the top of the foot there a little bit at the ball of the foot. Beautiful. And then we're going to bring that foot down, and let's do the other side. So lifting the left heel and staying nice and grounded and balanced through the right foot as you just undulate or rock that left foot side to side on the ball of the left foot there. Breathe. Send breath into the foot. Really be mindful. Make this conscious movement, mindful movement. So we're not just swinging that foot around. We're really being mindful about that movement. Beautiful. Then let's bring that heel down. And then we're going to begin to do a little rocking forward and back. So shifting the weight, start small. As I mentioned earlier in the intro, we're going to start with small movements. So we're rocking the weight forward on the feet and then rocking back. So we're just shifting the weight forward and back with small, slow movements. And then noticing your balance, feeling your balance through your feet. Again, if you need to grab onto anything as you do any of these movements, again, please feel free to do so. You don't have to wait for me to cue you in something like that. Really be mindful. And so as we grow the movement, if that feels right for you, you may choose to come up off your heels onto your toes and then lift your toes as you go back. So as you come forward, you may come off your heels. As you go back, you may lift your toes if that works for you today. So play with that and just make it smooth and steady. So if it's not smooth and steady, if it feels choppy, if you feel totally off balance, then go back to keeping your feet against the floor completely. And then we're going to allow this to become even more free form. So now notice how the rest of the body wants to move. Make this more wave-like. Notice how the shoulders might want to ebb and flow with this rocking on your feet. Maybe the knees might want to bend a little bit. Feel the hips perhaps also ebbing and flowing, making it a more fully undulating movement. The head bobs as well, going to the extent that feels good to you. So again, you might be coming off the floor a little bit with your heels and your toes here, or you might not. We're going to do this for a couple more breaths. Let's take 2 big breaths here. Feeling that wave-like movement all through the body. And then slowly come back to center and maybe shake it out a little. Pause for a moment and just ground in stillness. Awesome. Now we're going to move into the knee joints. So shifting weight over to the right, let's lift that left foot off the floor and just little kicks. So how high you lift your foot totally depends on you. You could be lower to the ground or you could be higher to the ground. And we're just letting the knee kind of swing. We're just letting the lower leg swing at the knee. 2 big breaths. And then let's go side to side. Let the knee or let the lower leg swing side to side. And then slowly bring that foot down. Shift weight over to that foot. Get nice and strong and steady before you lift the other foot up, starting with the kick-like swinging movement. Gentle, slow, rhythmic kicks, 2 big breaths. And then coming to a stop, let's go side to side, rocking side to side. Maybe blowing out, maybe sighing out, but 2 big breaths. And then bringing that foot down. Once again, find steadiness in your mountain pose. Get balanced, get grounded. Beautiful. We're going to work our way up again into the hips now. So shifting weight over to that right leg again. Lift that left foot off the floor and begin to swing it slowly like a pendulum. So you might feel better having your hands on your hips for balance, or again, you might be holding a wall with one hand, or a chair or something. And then just see how this feels. And if you're okay without holding something, add a little swinging of the arms as well. Nice big breaths as you move through that leg, undulating that whole left leg at the hip. And you might even move into a little bit bigger, faster movement, possibly. Again, this is all optional. Depending on how your balance feels today, you might even add a little gentle bounce at the knee, possibly, if that feels okay to you. Work at the range of movement that feels good. The key is a steady, smooth, flowing, rhythmic movement with your breath. And then slow it down and bring it out. So again, if you get tired, if you feel like stopping anywhere in between, feel free to pause, come back to a steady mountain pose. You can always resume the movement as well. So we'll shift to the other side, grounding, getting your balance, and starting with a little slow pendulum-like rocking, steady. Maybe you move those arms, and as it starts feeling good and comfortable to you, maybe you go a little bigger with the movement. Maybe you really just let the movement flow through you. Sometimes these movements feel difficult because they're unfamiliar. And it just takes a little bit of time and practice to get familiar again with some of these movements. So again, go to the extent that feels good to you. Big breath. And then slowly bring that foot down and come back to mountain pose. Pause, ground, maybe even close the eyes. Take a breath. Awesome. And we're going to move our way up now into the pelvic region. So you might go a little wider with your stance. If you feel a little more balanced that way, feel free to do that. Hands are going to be at the hips. And we're going to begin just doing little circular rotations through the hips. And just finding, starting small. And then maybe going a little bigger with that movement as it feels good to you, if it feels good to you. Making it smooth, steady, rhythmic, flowing. Breathe with it. Take those big breaths. And then notice what else as we start getting a little bigger in the movement, as we start getting a little free form, a little more flowy in our movement. What else wants to move? Maybe those shoulders want to get involved. The rib cage wants to get involved. Maybe the head wants to get involved. How does this rotation through the hips ripple through the body? Let it ripple. Don't feel like you need to resist the movement. So notice if you're stiffening anywhere, if you are perhaps resisting the movement. As long as your body's allowing it, go for it. And then slowly come back towards center. Pause at center, and then let's go in the opposite direction. But again, start small so that you can really be mindful. That's what conscious movement is about. Really noticing the nuances of the movement and how it feels. And that's why it's so important to start small and slow at first so we can feel our way into a bigger movement if that's where the body wants to go. And then feel our way into just the flow, the rhythm. Again, that rippling effect all through the body of this movement, of how other parts of the body may want to also respond to this rotation through the hips. Let your neck and head especially be relaxed. Notice if you're stiffening through the jaw or the face. Smile, have fun with it. This is like adult play. We don't play like kids. We don't move like kids anymore. So I love doing this every morning just to start my day with some play and some ease for my body. And then we're going to slowly come back to center. And at center, pause in that mountain pose again. Reground. And then we'll move our way up into the shoulders. So rolling the shoulders. And this is something that we often do. I know I often do it in my yoga classes, my yoga videos. I'll often do a shoulder rotation as a way to release tension from the shoulders. Big breaths, conscious breathing. And after a few times in one direction, we're going to go in the opposite direction. And of course, we keep the arms just loose. All the movements right now coming from the shoulders, the arms are loose. Starting off small before we build that movement and evolve into something perhaps bigger. Beautiful. And then come back to center, maybe shake it out. And now we'll do it again, but we're going to evolve that movement. We're going to grow that movement if that feels right to you. So we're going to roll the shoulders back again, rotate back. And after doing this a few times, get those elbows involved. Get the rib cage and the spine involved. Maybe even get the legs involved. So it started at the shoulders. Where does that take you? Where's the ripple effect of that movement moving through your body or flowing through your body? Maybe you decide you even want to get bigger with the arm movement. Play with it. Does it feel right? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. And then slowly come back to center. We're going to do the same thing in the opposite direction. So again, just starting with the rotations, rolling the shoulders forward, and then gradually allowing that movement to evolve and grow from that so that you feel it through other parts of the body as it feels right to you today. Undulating, wave-like, smooth movements. And then slowly coming back to center. Find your mountain pose, breathe, ground. We're going to do one more movement through the shoulders, and this is going to be kind of an alternating movement. So again, we're going to start with the shoulders, but we're going to alternate the roll, the rotation of the shoulders backward. And then once again, we're going to begin to add. So maybe those hips are the next place, or maybe the elbows are where this movement ripples into, flows into. And maybe those knees get involved, maybe the elbows and the arms get involved a little bit more. Before you know it, you're doing a really nice lazy backstroke perhaps, and see what feels good to you. And then just let it go free form. So even from this, you might decide to just sway in some different way. Where does your body want to go with this? We're getting the entire body involved now. It could be dance-like. Have fun with it. Once again, think of it as your time to play and explore your body. Always being mindful and honoring whatever feels good, but not being afraid to go into some unfamiliar territory with your movements. Let it be free form. Let it flow. This is what I feel like doing today. I don't know about you. Whatever you're doing is just right. You can even move around on your mat. All right, we're going to slowly bring it back if you've been moving around. And ease your way back into your mountain pose. Find that steadiness, find that focus point, or close your eyes for a moment. Take a big breath, reground. Beautiful. And now working into the neck. Okay, we're going to take the head in a circular movement now. So just slowly move that head around and find as big a circle as feels good to you. And maybe at the rim or the perimeter of that biggest circle, you might explore now allowing that movement that started small with the neck, with the head, to evolve and grow into something bigger. And maybe now the shoulders and the rib cage get involved. Maybe the torso, the entire torso gets involved. But the head is still moving. So again, make sure you're mindful of the original movement. Neck is relaxed. And gradually bring it back to where you're just moving the head. And then slowly come back to center. Of course, we do the other direction too. I was about to say other side, but it's not really other side. It's the other direction, isn't it? So slow, small in the other direction. If and when it feels right, you go bigger, gradually, slowly, breathing. Blowing the breath out or sighing it out whenever it feels good to do that. And when you get to that largest circular movement through the head that feels good, noticing if that wants to move into or grow into something else. Noticing if you're holding back. Are you holding somewhere? Are you resisting in the shoulders? Are you resisting along the spine in some way? What if you allowed yourself to let go of that resistance? Where would that movement flow? Where would it take you? Give yourself permission to explore and play once again. Breathing. And gradually ease it back so that only your head is moving. And then gradually bring it back to center. Pause. Big breath in mountain pose. Get steady, get grounded. Awesome. And we're going to come down now. Slowly come down to your seat. All right. So maybe you're noticing already a little looseness. Hopefully, you're already noticing a little looseness, a little more energy flow through the body. So as you come into your seat, find that comfortable seat. So maybe you're sitting on a cushion or a bolster or a blanket to help you be lifted in your upright seat. Cross your legs in a way that feels good to you. Maybe you put blocks under your knees. But whatever you need to do to sit up nice and tall with your hands to the side. And just settle down through your lower body here. Settle down through that lower body. Gently lift the spine. And we're going to start a little bit of, and we're going to start here with a little bit of head undulation side to side. So we did some rotations when we were standing up with the head. And now seated, we're just going to bring ear to shoulder and just start with that small, slow movement at the head. Just noticing how this feels. And then if it feels good, as we breathe into this movement, as we feel the nice opening and spaciousness along the sides of the neck, we might bring the shoulders into it. Starting to rock, starting to undulate the shoulders along with the head. And maybe we bend the elbows a little bit more. Maybe the trunk, the spine starts side bending a little bit more. Maybe we gently push off one hand to the other. Maybe we reach with one arm and then the other. Maybe we start bringing those arms up. Again, I'm offering you suggestions, demonstrating options. You flow with your body. This is really about exploring movement in your body to the extent that it feels good to you today, any given time that you do this. Each time might be different. It doesn't have to be the same every time. If you really listen to how your body wants to move and pay attention to where you're holding, where you're resisting the movement, and maybe breathe into and send your intention into those areas of resistance, then maybe we'll be able to open up and go into bigger movements, more free form movements that'll create more space in the body and de-stiffen or unstiffen. Not sure which one's the right word, but release the stiffness from those joints. Beautiful. So gradually slow down, come back to neutral slowly with your movement, however you're doing it, just working your way back to maybe just turning, or I'm sorry, bending slowly side to side, bending the neck, bending the head, side bending, side to side. And then coming back to neutral, pausing, maybe you close your eyes, you ground through your sit bones, lifting the spine, softening the face. And we're going to do a little rotating. So this time we're going to start with the base of the spine. So the small movement initiates from the base of the spine. And we're going to do a little rotation here. And then as it feels good to go a little bigger and bolder with this, we get into the rib cage a little bit more. We get into the shoulders. We get into the head and the neck. Maybe the arms flow, maybe they don't. Maybe they're just like seaweed hanging off of us as we sway in the water. You can use good imagery to help. Imagery is always useful to promote good undulation, good flow. Breathe, nice big full conscious breaths as you rotate the torso. Staying lifted, just notice and be mindful that you're not sinking into your gut and compressing into your abdomen. Just make sure that you stay nice and lifted as you move. And then slowly bring it back so that you're just coming back to that rotating trunk from the base of the spine. And then pausing at center, take a moment, and then of course, we go in one direction, we have to go in the other direction. So the whole premise of this undulation is that we, one, be very mindful. We move consciously, slowly. We start off really deliberate with our movement, and we allow the movement to become more free form and more gliding, more loose, maybe not so deliberate anymore, more flowing, but still mindful. We're still fully aware, fully conscious of how it feels, aware of our breath and breathing with the movement. And notice how, as we've been doing this, the breath doesn't necessarily synchronize with the movement as often it does in yoga. The breath is kind of free form with the movement, just making sure that you take those nice, big, full smooth breaths, or breathe in the way that feels good to you, that supports your movement. And then slowing it down, come back to just the torso rotation in that other direction. And then come back to center, pausing. Big breath. Beautiful. All right, we're going to do a couple final things lying on our backs. So come on down and lying on your back. Let's bring those knees into the chest, hugging those knees. Just take a moment to let the backside settle into the mat. Feel your weight sinking downward. Maybe feel the weight of your legs into your body, flattening the back. And we're going to then do a little gentle undulating of the legs here, the bent knees, the legs, side to side. And you may just start off just side to side, again, small and slow. And when and if it feels comfortable, you may add a little forward and backward rocking to that. And you can go to the extent that feels good to you. You can take those knees as far away from you as it feels good to do. Again, bringing them back toward your body, rocking side to side, as well as moving them forward and back. And maybe you just stay here. And if at any point you want to take a break and you just want to hold your knees inward to keep that back nice and flat, you can certainly do that. And if at any point you feel like growing this into some other kind of movement, maybe doing different shapes with your feet, maybe letting the head, notice if the head wants to get involved. And if you don't need to hold your legs, let those arms be loose as well. So again, exploring movement. And you may take a little more time to do this. In the interest of time for this video, I'm taking a few minutes with each thing, but you may want to take more time and really let yourself explore movement in each of the poses, each of the positionings we've done, working with each of those key joints that we did when we were standing as well as sitting. Beautiful. So wherever you are with this, just kind of come back to center, come back to neutral, hug those knees in again. And then slowly bring those feet down. And if it feels good, just rock those knees side to side here. One last little movement for those hips, for the low back. Maybe you change the rocking of the knees a little just to feel a little different movement. Playing with something, or maybe even exploring something that you don't usually do. We get caught up in the same kinds of movements. Even when we do our yoga practices, we get caught up in moving the same way all the time when we do certain poses and certain things. When that feels complete, I invite you to just lengthen those legs, maybe support the knees if you need to, support the head if you need to, and find your shavasana. And just take a few minutes of final relaxation here to bring our undulating practice to completion. Taking a few big breaths in and out. I'm really feeling the body settle and sink. Feeling the weight of your heels sink into the ground, the weight of your legs, your hips sink into the ground. Feel the weight of your hands, the backs of your hands, the weight of your arms and shoulder blades sinking into the ground. Feel the weight of your head, the weight of your head sinking into the ground. And notice the flow of breath, the nice, steady, smooth flow of breath. No need to do anything with it anymore. Just allow it to flow as it is, observing that flow, enjoying whatever sensations you're noticing, enjoying the spaciousness that we created, the ease that we hopefully created within. Let's take 3 nice big breaths in and out. And then when it feels complete to you, wiggle those fingers and toes, do other little movement. Wake up the body again gently, eventually bringing the feet up. Maybe you hug your knees one more time. When you feel ready, roll to one side. Maybe you pause there for a moment. And again, when it feels right to you to slowly come up, come on up into a comfortable seat. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. I hope you enjoyed this undulating practice, and I hope you'll come back to this practice and explore more movement and variety of movement so that you can unstick those joints and release the stiffness from your body. Until next time, thanks again. Be well. Namaste.